Tonight in International Broadcast News, also known as IBN, we're going to tackle some big topics like the French language, the Bill of Rights, roads and canals, the crop cycle, potatoes, the putting out system, and last but not least, the Navigation Act. Our first topic, the French language. The French language revolution has been taking over educational Latin. Versailles has become the center of European politics, and with this has pushed out French as the official language of politics and education. Major countries such as Germany, Poland, Sweden, and Russia have switched to French. This has increased French's position in Europe, and it has inspired a cosmopolitan culture. Now we are going to see how the French language revolution has affected everyday citizens.
Here, and today I'm live from Versailles interviewing a French guy called Bavo.
So hello, how has French affected your trade?
Il a contribué à la situation parce que nous pouvons maintenant parler dans la même langue.
Thank you. As we just heard from Bavo, French has made it easier for trade across countries because the countries now all speak in the same language. Next, we have someone who is from another country, so we're going to interview them on how it has helped their situation. Do you prefer the outgoing language of Latin or the newcoming language of French?
Neither, brother, I'm Jamaican. One love, one love.
Terribly sorry about our last interviewee. The French language probably hasn't made it to his country yet, so now we're going to go to a more sensible location, the classroom. So we're now going to see the environment of a classroom in the 1600s. They speak French.
Ok, aujourd'hui, nous apprenons les mathématiques. 1 plus 1 égale 2, donc l'apprendre.
Oui. That was the French classroom. Now let's go back to the studio.
Thanks a lot for that interesting topic, Tuk, or as they say, merci. Well, now, next up is the Bill of Rights. Recently, the Bill of Rights was passed in England. This new bill is a result of the Glorious Revolution, which successfully concluded last year. It aims to improve the political stability and safety of people of England by setting limits to the power of the monarchs and improving the rights of the Parliament. A few examples of the new law include that it is the right of the subject to petition the king, and all committees and prosecutions for such petitions are illegal. And the freedom of speech and debate of proceeding in Parliament ought not to be impeached or questioned in any court or place out of the Parliament. Hopefully this new law prevents conflicts between the kings and the Parliament, and future civil wars can be avoided. Population explosion! The population of Europe is starting to grow steadily. There are many factors that lead into the contribution of the population explosion. Some of these factors are that women have more employment opportunities, there are less deaths, and the disappearance of the plague. Advanced medical knowledge have not affected the population explosion, although the prevention of smallpox and other diseases have. Improvement in water and sewage have decreased the insect population, and with that has decreased the amount of diseases. Current improvements on roads and canals have also greatly improved the situation of famine. Food can now be transported quickly to places of need. New strict quarantines have lessened the spread of the plague. We will now take a look at some of these factors. Now to you.
Hello guys, it's Duke here again. I'm live. So behind me you can see a new 17th century road. These roads have affected people in good ways. The effects of war are now lessened, people are not starving, and food can now be transported quickly to other places to stop local famine. So as you can see from these roads, they are top quality, made from gravel and stone and sand and dirt. Maybe not the sand. So here we have a canal. Water runs from the roof into this basin and then down it. So this is how it is easier to get water from one place to another. So now we're going to demonstrate how you use this new road. On the road you can walk. On the road you can run. Road you can fall over. On the road you can stand.
Whoa. Let's check your medical records. You're clean. Whoa. Let's check your medical records. You're sick, bro. Can't get in.
Come on, it's not contagious.
It's contagious. Just stay away. No. You can't. potato.
Why?
It makes you turn into an ill person when you don't eat your food. Thanks.
And now, back to the studio.
Thank you for that. Now up next we have an interview with our art expert, Mr. Tobias Flint Sheldrake. Now we'll have an interview with an expert, Mr. Tobias Sheldrake, on the Baroque times of the 1600s and how it has improved the modern life. Good day, Mr. Sheldrake. How are you faring?
Good day to you too. I'm fine, thanks.
Now let's get down to business. What do you think is of this wonderful period known as the Baroque?
Good question. I personally think it's a time when kings are building incredible and flashy places like the Palace of Versailles, which was started in 1664 and is going to be finished around 1710. It has also started a new era of different types of arts, including architecture. A prime example of a Baroque building is the Château des Maisons.
Wow, that's interesting. What do you think is the main difference between the Renaissance and the Baroque in architecture?
The main difference from my point of view would be the structure the buildings are made up of. In Renaissance buildings, the architect concentrated more on the support of the buildings and more on having straight lines, unlike the Baroque architecture, which focuses more on silent decoration.
True. And the difference in arts is?
In art, it is pretty much the same concept. The emotion shown on paintings, for example, in typical Renaissance artwork, would not show as much emotion as the Baroque painting. The main goal of art now is to express the artwork by making it as attractive as possible to people.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that very brief and very informative discussion on the Baroque arts. Well, unfortunately, that's all we have time for. Mr. Tobias Flint, thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Are we going to shake hands or not?
Yeah.
No, it's not going to work like
We
that.
should leave that. Open field system, commonly known as the crop cycle amongst farmers, is a method in which farmers use multiple rotations of crops annually. For example, a 3-year rotation is when farmers plant a specific kind of crop one year, then another the next year, and on the third year they let the ground refertilize by leaving it empty. But now the open field system has been improved by the use of more complex system of crop rotation. In simple English, someone had a wise idea of adding more rotation to the cycle. Smart. We also discussed the long-awaited topic of potatoes. We are going to now find out what and how you use this amazing new food called potatoes. Now to you.
Thanks, Richie. I'm here at the farm and I will interview Mr. Farmer about improved crop cycle and general agriculture. Hello, Mr. Farmer.
Hello, Mr. Interviewer.
Beautiful farm here.
Thank you. It was handed to me by my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. I think I missed a great, but that's not important. It was handed to him by a noble. Originally, my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was just a worker, but as a noble gave it to him for all his hard work on the farm, and it's been passed down generation to generation, as I know.
Cool story, bro. Needs more grades. Now back to the important issues. Could you explain what you have done to improve open field system?
We now use 10 rotations, alternating between a number of grains, roots and hay crops in a given year 10-year schedule.
And how did you make the land survive 10 years of planting without dying?
It is true that the grain crops exhausted the land, but we farmers found a solution for this by planting nitrogen-storing crops. Such crops don't only rejuvenate the land, but also give more produce, creating a surplus during harvesting. Examples of these crops are peas and beans.
Okay. Is there any other place where there is a surplus apart from crops?
Yes, I have also started selected breeding, which means it brings livestock and more meat on the table. An example is my prize-winning new bus ox, which is also going to be tonight's dinner. Would you like to stay?
Unfortunately, I have other plans. But now, back to the business. With the surpluses of food, does this mean that people feel more healthier than normally?
Yes, surpluses mean healthy diets and a vicious cycle where farmers had few animals, which led to not enough manure that meant little grain and less food, ultimately being led to few animals and the crop circle starting all over again. But this was finally broken down by new methods.
How do you feel about closing the fields?
I'm completely against it because the price to pay is so high. If we were to do this, it would mean revolutions in villages, life and organizations. The price is too high to pay for most farmers, and we had to pay an unfair and disappropriate share of the bill.
Okay. My deepest apologies on that, but moving on. What are some new crops you have started to farm?
Some new crops are turnips and clovers, and the most interesting and multifunctional, potatoes. Now my first son, Lauri, will demonstrate some of the uses of this new magnificent potato. Potato-loving viewers will find some of the scenes barbaric and cruel to potatoes. Unfortunately, potatoes were hurt in the making of this movie.
You can throw it! You can boil it! You can freeze it! You can eat it! You can burn it! And you can do way more things!
Thanks for the interview. Now, next topic, the Canals system. The new Canals system has become a popular way of producing goods. Briefly, it's a system where merchants give materials to workers and they prepare them and give a final product back to the merchants. Usually, farmers work as producers when they have no job to do in the farm. Now, let's see one worker's life and interview him. Now, to you.
Hello, we're here at James's house. How are you doing, James?
Fine, because I just finished my job. I made tons of teeth. Do you want something?
Well, thank you. Could you tell me something about your job, pros and cons?
It's pretty nice job because I don't have anything to do in the field right now, and extra money is always good. I like that we can use our own methods and we don't have to sell or transport any stuff. But cons are that we are only family enterprise, so we don't have many people to work with us, and also wage is pretty low.
Well, thanks for the interview, James. Back to the studio.
Thanks for that wonderful interview. Now to our next topic, the Navigation Acts. The Navigation Acts were just passed by the British Parliament and new laws were made. These laws made to control colonies' trade and shipping.
Briefly, the laws say that everything traded from the 13 colonies of Britain
Had to be transported in English ship, the captain had to be English, and 3/4 of the crew had to be English. Some goods like tobacco, cotton, wool, sugar, indigo, lumber, and rice had to go to England first before they could be sold anywhere else. The only people who had right to trade with other colonies had to be British citizens. Also, heavy taxes were imposed on trade in all British colonies. Experts say that it will add more conflict between Britain and Dutch. It might lead to war. Colonies might get angry and start smuggling goods.
That was the end of our show. Thanks for watching and good night.